Okay, today is October 17th, 2023. We're at 28 subscribers, and if you add all those numbers, 10, 17, 23, you get 50. Let's get to 50 today. I'm supposed to say that. Like, subscribe, watch. So, why am I wearing a stethoscope? It's not because I'm any good at science. On Monday is the 100th anniversary of Disney, which, to our point, was how we grew up with another reality. It was virtual in the sense that we escaped. So today, in honor of that, we're going to go through the Seven Dwarfs. This is for Doc. And we have Sleepy. So you're going to feel better doing virtual reality, but you got to wake up. Don't be dopey, which I know is not politically correct. That was from Walt Disney. Don't be grumpy. We're going to be happy because virtual reality can change our mood. Things like liminal and trip and just happy games will make us happy. And these are in order, by the way, supposedly, of the way that the Seven Dwarfs were introduced. So don't be bashful. Please don't be bashful. Like this. Subscribe. Thumbs up. Other stuff. Last but not least, Sneezy. Sorry, that's Sneezy. He's the last dwarf. So, goal today is 50 because a goal is a dream with a deadline, and we're in virtual reality, so we need to dream. That's our tribute to Disney today. Now on to more tips for virtual reality using the MetaQuest 3. The very funniest thing I forgot to mention was that of all the things I did in the unboxing, I have no idea why. Why did I miss this? They've gone to a round brick. So to me, a round brick sounds very funny, but more importantly, I think it's supposed to be more ergonomic for us. So, I don't know, it makes me slip. I like holding something solid, but that's just me. Once again, we're in the high gravity zone here at Howard's Place. So these are my notes for today. Let's get on to some of the MetaQuest 3 things that I like better for us. And for those who, once again, find the need to critique. These are my observations. I'm not an expert. I don't design. I don't make games. I have no vested interest. So please, if you have a very strong interest in criticizing my facts, just tell somebody else. We don't care because we're learning together. So some of this might overlap with other things that we had. The next point I want to make, I talked about the sound. I don't only mean that you could hear it better, because you can. As you know, as we age, our range gets a little narrowed, which is how it's stunning to me that Billy Joel's still performing as our Elton John, because as Billy Joel said, those songs were not designed for young Billy Joel. But the sound, to me, is more pleasant. So I don't have to keep it as loud to hear, which obviously is good from the standpoint that we don't want to degrade our hearing. But it may be that there's more bass, but whatever it is, I found it more soothing. I found it easier to accommodate. Also, for those of you that meditate, normally you'll hear meditations. They might have different inaudible levels of sound, different hertz. That doesn't hurt. But when you're meditating, very often they're using cello or bass bassoon, deeper instruments. Not like the trumpet that I hounded you with before. Speaking of hounds, my dog will be here any minute. Not today. But the point is that the more pleasant sound to me makes the games easier. I mentioned virtual violin. I downloaded that Piano Vision for us. I was playing on the Granite, and once again, I have a little ways to go. If you thought the trumpet was terrible, whew. So, more pleasant sound. And as we'll see, the senses are going to be more important to us than others, not for games necessarily, but for tolerance over time, for comfort, for the ability to sit longer without feeling that we're uncomfortable. Because one of the things we really need to work on, as I mentioned before, was the idea that we might have to overcome a little motion sickness or other things. Anybody does, but as we age, I think we tend to get a little less equilibrium, which is why we fall. So I think the more sound we can enjoy, the more enjoyment we're going to get. And that sound will be vital to our future as we continue to evolve virtual reality from the days of Disney as an escape to the days of us in our lives. Because remember, we are trying to get older without getting old as defined by so many generations as immobility, and probably number one, the fear that we will not maintain our dependence. Our children will have to take our house away. Our children don't want to do that. We don't want to do it. We're all frightened. But we can stay younger as we age using virtual reality to expand our minds, tighten our bodies, improve our balance, and just be one of the seven dwarfs that we like best, happy. I also found, and again, for purists who say there's no difference, it's the software, again, my observation, it felt like the auto shut-off was more forgiving. I know there's always settings about when it goes to sleep, but I felt like in the past, whenever you even lifted this far, it would shut off. And to me, maybe it's that I've learned, but it did not. So if I did need to go through pass-through, which we talked about, that you can see everything going on, once in a while, if you do want to lift it, you tended, in the past, it would automatically stop. You'd have to go and it would have to turn back on. That seems to be much easier to me. Like any newer technology, there's a much quicker response. And that's a faster phone, that's a faster car, that's a microwave oven versus conventional. The idea there is that when you are installing an app, it installs quicker. When you are using and switching between the apps, you are seeing it quicker. There's a show on called Nada, N-A-D-A, about an aging food critic, very topical, an aging food critic, and one of the comments he's making is that in the past he didn't have to enjoy every meal because he knew he'd see thousands in the same way we thought we'd have what felt like thousands of years. And certainly some days when we had children felt like thousands of years. We were amazing, weren't we? Great. So the point being that as we are moving on, one of the things you've heard me say is, I don't want to get, and you've probably seen from the quality of what I'm doing here, I'm not going to get bogged down on perfection here. That movie talks about there's only so many meals left. In the same way, to me, faster response time on the apps reduces the amount of just overhead we're taking to get better. So the quicker response time has a lot of implications. Most importantly, every second matters for us, and it helps that it's faster. Next, and this again might just be things that I've noticed, but because of the better eyesight and hearing, I feel like there's more accessibility options. If you've ever taken a minute or hours to look in an iPhone at accessibility, the number of things that you can do are astounding, just astounding. And in the same way, these things are getting more accessible. I mentioned earlier the importance of the guardian, the boundary, being more automated, created automatically, the idea of mixed reality where we will be able to see, the idea of pass-through. I've also noticed that the voice commands, which we'll learn together, are more responsive. And to me, again, we're trying to minimize movement. It's easier just to double click than it is to try to navigate. Our hands might shake a little. So it's just harder sometimes to move. So I find that the larger text, the guardian, the faster voice commands are just better suited for accessibility. And then last but not least, I feel like lower light is more tolerated. And in the evolution of what were Oculus, or I guess plural is oculi, that became Meta, there was a much stronger dependence on light. And I say that because embarrassingly, I would go to meditate and I would have my Oculus or my Meta and I would turn the lights off. Well, I didn't like that because it needs light for the optics. So I had to meditate in light, which defeated the purpose because I'd start to fall asleep and I'd take the headset off and I was stuck in light. So I'm sure it has to do with the better cameras and the better lenses, but it's far more lower light tolerant. Relative to that whole concept, there are some sleep apps, and there's even one liminal that does things with your eyes closed and the lights and the sound, the lights go slowly over. And to that point then, at the very end, they say, like, should take off your headset and put it down. But if you have beaming lights in your face, it wakes you up again, which is counterproductive. So to me, it feels like the lower light is, and it makes sense technically that a better lens and more cameras require reduced lights like any camera. But I think in our case, it's far more relevant because we don't intend to sit down and play games in a bright room and compete in a gamer chair with great controllers and fast computers. We are just trying to use these three pieces to relax, to learn piano, which will take a while, to play, to move, to stay independent, to grow our minds, tighten our bodies, and calm our spirit. One other little fun little thing is that, I already mentioned the zero thing. Okay, so that's me being forgetful. Ever happened to you? All right, that is it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, because get it, scribe's right. Subscribe, so that'd be a shorter scribe. Subscribe, like, and view to the very end. This is not the end. This is not the end. Not the end.